No less than 70 Canadian experts, academics and organizations have signed an open letter urging the Prime Minister to defend Canada's digital borders. The letter calls for the federal government to stake out protections for social media, AI, financial transactions, and any data that can be, quote, weaponized by a Trump regime. Joining us this morning is one of the signatories of that letter, international trade expert Barry Appleton. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Anne-Marie.
First of all, what does that mean to weaponize that information? What would that look like?
Well, look, right now, we don't actually, in Canada, control our own data. We think that the internet isn't regulated, you know. You think it's sort of this
Wild West.
Wild West, exactly. But it's actually regulated by states all over. And when you put data, and you look, everyone's going home right now, this week, kids are going back to school, right? All the parents, you're a parent, you know. You tell, well, maybe not, your kids might be too small. You tell them, don't put that picture on social media. Once it's posted, it doesn't come down. Who regulates? Who controls? Who protects? That's what digital sovereignty is about. Right now, if you've got data, let's say it's going to be in TikTok. That data goes into an algorithm. The data is outside of our control in Canada. Parliament hasn't got any rules on it. In other countries, they have rules. They know what's going to happen with that data. They know what's going to happen with the process, and they can protect Canadians and our youth and our mental health. All of that can be protected. Right now, we have nothing because Parliament hasn't acted.
Does the U.S. have protections that we don't?
Well, they do, but not at the federal level. President Trump, after he finished with some tariffs on Canada, threw a new set of rules that try to remove them at the federal level. But they have them in California, they have them in New York, they have them in Illinois, they have them in 7 different states, have rules that protect and guarantee, especially data privacy. And we have been so slow. And in this area, if you don't act, they're acted on you. So why is Parliament not getting the message that we need to be at the table? That's what this letter was about.
So the digital world touches almost every aspect of our life. I mean, even right now, if people are watching this on a device, it's everywhere, right? So what are some of the recommendations in this letter for government?
Well, first of all, let's say that you have what we call a recommender system. A recommender system might be as simple as TikTok. Okay, TikTok, you go on, you do what you want to do. What the system does, what the platform does, is encourage you to stay on longer. It does that by using what's called an algorithm. The algorithm identifies what you like, what you don't like, and then it tries to engage you. The way that's the most effective way to engage you is to make you angry. The angrier you are, the more you stay on, the more you post, the more you deal. But that's not actually healthy. And we have no disclosure. In the EU, they have full disclosure.
What does that mean to have full disclosure?
It means that the algorithm, the things that are identifying what's going on, is disclosed. And in fact, this week, Google had to pay a $3.5 billion fine to the EU for preferring its own systems over other ones, and other ones not having transparency in the market. The US has done the same thing as well.
If I can make this easier for people to understand, it's almost like having to post an ingredients list. Is that similar?
Exactly, except here, public information, so you know. Right now, nobody knows. We have the same thing with Bill C-2. It's a very flawed piece of legislation, the surveillance legislation. It basically lets our data in Canada be seen and surveilled by the United States. What country would agree to that? Why would we want to do that? The AI is everywhere, right? And it's getting bigger, not smaller.
Sure.
So we need to have a seat at the table. Right now, we have no seats.
Okay. So why do you feel the impetus for this kind of a letter, this kind of language now? You're talking about the Trump administration weaponizing our data. Why is this the time?
Anne-Marie, right now, we're in Canada, we are so focused on having to deal with what the Trump administration does. First, it's tariffs. Second, it's digital. If you look at, for example, the US-EU deal, 1/4 of the terms of the fine print are about data. Before we were able to actually have any discussions with the United States, they made us pull back the effect of our digital sales tax. This is no longer a question of it's not related. It's directly related. It's just after the tariff word. And we don't have a policy. How can we be negotiating with the Americans, negotiating with other countries too, without having a policy of ourselves? Parliament's got to say something, because if you don't act in this area, you're controlled. If you're not taking a step to protect us, we're not protected at all. And it's too late if we do nothing. And by now, we're still doing nothing. It's time to do something.
Weren't digital protections part of renegotiating what was then the new NAFTA and is now what we call CUSMA?
Well, there were not protections. There were actually protections for the Americans to make it easier for them to have easier access to our market. It was not a question of protecting the ability of Canada. Canada gave up rights to be able to protect ourselves, to be able to make sure that health data, political data, sensitive personal data was localized, kept in Canada, so that Canadian courts and Canadian regulators could be able to deal with it. We gave that up. That's exactly the risk again. We don't want to give up more without having a policy first. Let Parliament speak first. Because if we don't make the rules, we're governed by somebody else. It's not like the rules aren't there. They're being done. Whether it's China, they have lots of rules. Whether it's the US, whether it's Europe. Wherever we're being ruled from, we're still being ruled.
It's a really important conversation to have. One not a lot of people think about, but it will affect everybody in this country. Barry Appleton, international trade expert. Great to have you here this morning.
Thanks for having me.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.